Hello, my name is Kevin Dillenberg and I'm now playing the role of Gregory Mitchie. Hello everyone, my name is Gregory Mitchie. I grew up in North Carolina. I was raised in a middle-class family with two parents who both worked at boarding schools. Growing up, I always felt safe and loved. When I was getting older, my neighborhood started to change. African American families started moving into my neighborhood. I spent almost every Sunday at my church, Seigel Avenue Presbyterian Church, worshiping side by side with African Americans. In some ways, these experiences that I had when I was younger shaped me into the person I am today. Later in life, I moved to Chicago and I started co-directing an after-school program. I then became a substitute teacher. 2 months later, before I knew it, I had my own classroom. I felt that the work I was doing now had a higher purpose. Some may ask why I wrote this book in the first place. I told them that other educators have told me that the best way to learn about teaching is learning from other teachers. Teaching can be an isolated profession, and I believe it is important to watch and speak to other teachers about why they do what they do as well as how they do what they do. These 5 teachers that I have interviewed and spent time with all share two contradictory beliefs. Those are that public schools have too often failed poor children and children of color, and that public schools with considerable effort can become places of hope and possibility for all kids. I will now hand it over to the 5 teachers that I had the honor of talking and working with. By using one item they have all chosen, they will explain that their main goals and purposes in their classrooms. These teachers are working towards the day when hope and justice are in a more plentiful supply for all children. They will see you when they get there.
Dexter Mallon as Liz Kirby. Hi guys, it's me, Liz Kirby. I teach at a school in Chicago with a predominantly black population, and I'd say my biggest goals for my students is for them to become intellectually curious and generally interested in their learning. The way I like to do this is to make my lessons better connect with my students and try to give them examples that are more modern and relevant. I enjoy the hip-hop genre, so I'll often try to incorporate rap lyrics into my lessons. I think it's important that I, being a black teacher, teach black students. Being able to look at my past and use my own experience to help my students is important because we share the same culture, and this can make them more comfortable in talking and expressing themselves to me. Overall, good teaching demands personal relationships with your students, and that's what I try to do. Other than teach, I also want my students to embrace their cultures. In a predominantly white society, it is clear that the white culture is glorified. I want my students to have pride in their background and culture and be the best they can possibly be. I want my students to change the world. I think that it is important that they have a voice and we are all looking out for each other. And with this, change will happen. God plays a big role in this for me because the only way we can succeed is if we work together peacefully and truthfully. Although I want my students to look to the future, it's crucial that they are mindful of the present. I chose a map as my artifact because I want my students to be able to function and navigate the world as it is, and then we can go from there.
Hello everyone, my name is Cynthia Nambo. I teach 6th grade at New Horizons, an all-girl charter school in Chicago. One thing you should know about me up front is how explosive I am. By that, I mean when things are going well, I explode with positivity, but when things are going bad, I can be just the opposite. Another thing you should know about me is I'm all about my deep passion for freedom. When I look at many young women, I want them to feel confident and feel the freedom to be who they are. Freedom to be creative, expressive, and even as passionate as I am for my own beliefs. The freedom to speak up for yourself in a respected manner is very important to me. So is standing up for what is morally right. It plays a part in my life story after I ran away from home at age 15 when my stepfather was so verbally and physically abusive to my family. He prohibited us from acknowledging our Mexican heritage and even banning us from speaking Spanish in the house. From there, I knew I needed the freedom to be who I am. Many people might define me as a warm demander, based on my mixture of tenderness and toughness. It may seem like I'm being tough on students, but I just want the best from them. I want every girl to feel as confident and for the community to grow and succeed. Part of this growth is by becoming more socially and politically aware of what is going on in our community and the country. This awareness can translate to understanding and using our freedom given to us in this great nation. Looking at the Statue of Liberty, anyone can see each person, especially girls, have the ability to succeed and do what they feel makes them unique.
Hello, my name is Kevin Dillenberg and I will be playing the role of Freda Lynn. Hi class, my name is Fredo Lin and I am a teacher at Warren G. Harding High School. My parents immigrated to the United States from Taiwan in the late 1960s to get a better education. We grew up in an upscale suburban section of Long Island, where I was not only one of the only Asians, but one of the only non-whites, period. Because of who surrounded me, I was embarrassed to embrace my culture, so I kept the Taiwanese side of me at home. I wanted to assimilate myself into their white culture to fit in, and I think I did a very good job of it, because when I went to college at Northwestern University, other Asians there started to call me a Twinkie. This experience as a child has shaped how I now as a teacher want my kids to view their own identities. I encourage my students to embrace their own cultures and make their own voices heard, because I don't want them to reject their cultures just because of who is around them like I did. For this reason, I think an American flag represents who I am as a teacher, because one of the core values of America is embracing all different kinds of cultures, which is also who I am as a teacher. I also try to teach students about issues that might be controversial or uncomfortable for them, because it can help them become more aware of these issues and become more active citizens. It is important for students to develop their own opinions on these issues and think through them thoroughly. Embracing their cultures and forming their opinions is the basis of why I teach.
My name is Annie Deasing, and I will be playing the role of Tony Billingsley. Hi class, my name is Tony Billingsley. I teach 7th grade on the west side of Chicago. The first thing you should know about me is that I am all about adding an aspect of fun into the learning environment. I believe that the learning experience should be fun for both the teacher and the students. One of my favorite things to do with my students is to play bingo with the new words they have recently learned. My students seem to love to come to class every day because of the learning processes I use that are super exciting and aren't completely mentally draining. Bringing in the aspect of fun into my classroom does give me a leg up, but I also believe that in some ways being African American helps me relate to my students possibly better than others. Even though I believe it is important for African American students to have teachers who are the same race as them, it is also necessary for them to have teachers from a different race. This will encourage students to learn from various viewpoints, rather than just one. However, being the same race helps me connect to them on a personal level. My students see me as one of them. On top of playing bingo, I use another technique for my students to learn more vocabulary. I use total physical response storytelling to have students learn vocab by associating words with a movement, a physical spoken command, and through hearing words in stories which are acted out. My students learn a lot better when they are moving around and are physically active while learning. This is why I chose a stamp for my item. To teach my students, I put my own unique stamp on the approaches I take to have them succeed and learn.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Ryan, and I am representing Nancy Serrano from Gregory Mitchie's See You When We Get There. To begin, hello everyone, my name is Nancy Serrano, and I am a language arts teacher at Quincy Elementary for 7th and 8th graders. I actually went to Quincy Elementary with Gregory Mitchie as one of my teachers who influenced me to become a passionate teacher. I think that coming back to teach in my neighborhood is completing the circle of where my life began, and also creating a whole new circle of teaching in my neighborhood. Not only that, but I want these students to see a better future is possible for them. I want to be the prime example of how things can change, and a better future is there if they work hard. One of my main goals in my classroom is to challenge my students. I want these students to see the bigger picture, and for them to question not only my class content, but things from the real world. I want my students to question things instead of finding them as facts all because they're in a textbook. I want my students to question and comment on things in order to drive my classroom. Not only do I want them to contribute, but I also want them to feel extremely comfortable and safe to open up and discuss how they feel about things. I think that trust and respect are key elements in my classroom. I think that the point of education is to become aware of what is going on and to do something about it. Another goal of mine is to help students understand themselves and the world, and this is why I believe challenging my students is key for success. With that being said, I do not want to sugarcoat anything for my students. I want them to understand the reality of the situations going on and to become more aware of what reality is. Lastly, this goal is for the females in my classroom. This is why I chose a mirror to represent my classroom. I want my female students to realize their potential beyond their looks. I want my girls to see that they deserve attention for their brains and not for how pretty they are. These girls have way more potential than they can even see, so I want them to look into the mirror and see how beautiful they are on the inside and not to focus on what's on their outside. Thank you.
My name is Kevin Dolenberg, and once again I'm playing the role of Gregory Mitchie. I would first like to say thank you to the 5 teachers I got to know so well. They allowed me to get an inside classroom perspective and catch glimpses of teaching in all its complexity. They were great examples of how committed teachers succeed. These teachers were women who were open to continuously learning from their fellow teachers and students. I learned through these experiences that both white and African American teachers can teach African American kids, but in order for white teachers to be effective, they must be committed and put their whole self into the role of a learner. I was able to see that building strong and meaningful relationships with students was a key aspect of teaching. These relationships made students feel comfortable and at home in the classroom. Finally, all of these teachers had a clear, distinctive vision. They were all able to re-image the purposes and possibilities of education. These women did not look at the educational system of today as set in stone. Rather, they reimagined how it could be improved for the future.